You are now listening to the Knights Around the Table podcast.
Number on your screen and get your free lapel pin today. Sorry. I had a bit there I was going to do, but I think it'll stick. Because we're not sponsored, but I think it'd be funny. But
I need to hear the second half of that. Okay.
We are officially, this is it, man. We've been talking about it a long time, and here we are. This is great. Welcome to Knights Around the Table. I'm Zack Henderson, and this is Evan Lusk, Jonathan Jones. We'll be hanging out with you each episode, and so what brings us to the table? I guess what is this podcast about? What is it that we're going to be discussing? And I've been thinking about that. We're all fathers. We're all married. We all are Christians. We go to the same church, but we have a lot of similarities and a lot of differences, a lot of different experiences. So being that we're all husbands, I did want to ask, what is the secret to a successful marriage? What have you found when your experiences, like what, if there's a tip that you could give someone who's about to enter into the season that we are in and have walked through, what advice would you give them? That's a loaded question.
Well, first of all, let's see, we've been married 8 years. 8 years. So I don't feel like that's long enough to say I have won or I have the answer to everything. And especially in this day and age, I feel like you should probably either ask that question to someone who they can see the end, or they have, had their spouse, whichever husband or wife had already passed away, and they went the distance. So they would know for sure because they have crossed the finish line. I myself, marriage is easy and it is hard. It makes your life so much better. It makes everything great. But there are days that but there are days when you can't ever live without them. You don't want to.
Well, knowing how long you've been married, step one, so that's good. You got that down.
Yeah, I've been over here thinking I've been doing math in my head. I think I'm at 13 this year. So
it's and also when you are married and again, 8 years seems like you can't even remember being single. And then when you were single, you're like, what was I doing? Why was I doing that? I was so dumb and just like, because you realize that's what life is, right? Your goal is to be married and reproduce, have kids. And basically that's what life is about, have a family. And without that, you're missing an important element, huge. And it's almost like complete. I've been told to tell you how old I was when I was married.
Oh, yeah.
However, that's different because so you and Kristen got married. You were very young.
Yeah. I was 20. Well, I was 22. I proposed when I was 21.
I don't even know what I would do. I couldn't.
You were in a very different situation.
So y'all were, and you were younger too.
I was about 22, graduated college. Yeah, 23. I think when I got married.
So y'all were kids when y'all got married. So I was 32-ish, something like that. I'd already basically, halfway running a business, business partner with my dad, doing that, and had a house. Basically, I was an adult doing my. Now I wasn't an adult because my mom, I leaned on her for a lot, and she took care of me because I did everything my wife does now. My mom was doing for me before then. But as far as having my foothold in the world, and I was self-sufficient. That's where I was at. So when she came in there, she was a child. I say a child. Let me correct that. She was 21. When we got married.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything illegal. But she was considerably younger than me, had no life experience at all. Straight out of college. She graduated early so we could get married because I told her if I would not married after I proposed to her. I didn't think that through, but I proposed to her, and then when she immediately went to planning the wedding, getting everything set up, and I said, "Oh, I don't want to get married until you have finished college, because I don't want to be married to you while you're waking up in the morning going to college." And she's like, "Okay." So that was in fall, I think fall of 16. So then that winter, she said, "Yeah, I'm graduating this winter. We're getting married in spring." I said,
"Wow."
So I'm pretty sure that's how it happened.
Yeah.
You got married immediately, or you graduated early, like a year early.
Yeah. For all our listeners, his wife, Keeler, is our producer.
Oh, yes.
And so she's giving him all the Google eyes from afar while we're recording this. So rolling her eyes. Right. So what was the proposal? What was that? What was your plan? And was it executed to perfection?
In my mind, because my mind, all I want to do is, I'm not some hopeless romantic, or I'm just super, I don't know, what would the word be?
A simple man. You're a simple man.
Robust.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I like that.
Just straight to the point. I don't, get unlike. Anyway, so my idea was, we had been talking, and one good thing that I would have advised if you're getting married,
here we go,
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Discuss everything that you can possibly think of before you decide, ask the question, or start getting super serious, like children, your faith, money, how are you going to work, what are you going to work, how life is going to be like, your goals, their goals. I mean, the more you know, the more variables you can sort out, the less surprises you'll have. Because you're already going to have endless amounts of surprises.
Yeah, Dina and I talk about all that all the time with couples we've seen, maybe we've graduated with or went to school with. It's like, if you have communication, communication is key. Like, you can talk about anything, and when you start to, not talk about stuff, it's effectively like you're hiding stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
that's huge. Communication is absolutely, you can't put a price tag on that. But the thing that I was thinking more of is. It's a little one step above that. So you communicate when you have a problem. Is if not to put words in your mouth, but what I'm saying is, if you communicate when you have problems, you can solve the problems, you can work through it. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to say communicate beforehand, solve all those things.
That's right. Yeah.
So when I told her, will you marry me? I decided that I was going to do that. I remember my dad was the first person I told, and anyway, he just said, "Okay, yeah." And you could tell he was excited, but again, he wasn't like, I didn't get any grand emotional response. So anyway,
he's like, "It's about time." Man.
Yeah, exactly. But then, so we hashed out all these things, and all of our goals and all of our philosophies in life, and everything was just like, it just meshed perfectly. Everything that we thought about lives, our politics, foundation, just viewpoints on everything was just like perfect. We were in line. So that's probably what made our marriage the easiest. And I've never once been like, of course you always get upset or have little issues, spouts, if you will, but I've never once had like I regret being married or had anything like that.
Right.
Never. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's common, but you get people, and I've had friends that they're like really going through some hard times. But I've never had anything like that.
Sure.
Other than every now and then she'll threaten to, I'm going to take the babies and go live with my parents. She's told me that like twice.
Well, yeah, I think too, and not to get super spiritual, but for all of us, I mean, Jesus is kind of the center of our marriage and our relationship. Right. So that in itself, takes care of a lot of problems that maybe would arise. But okay, where were you on your proposal? And you're talking about communication. It's probably a good idea to know your hope to be or soon to be wife at the time that you propose, and whether it's a real, there's some people who really go all out by throwing the proposal on a basketball court full of everybody looking at them.
Yeah.
We didn't go that way. Yeah.
So we have been, like I said, the communication, that's where I was going on. We were communicating on where we were going to be at, what we were going to do. So it wasn't like I'd asked her, we'd even like said we should get married, think about that. It was just almost like understood. It's weird saying it, but it was kind of like that because I was in the middle of renovating what is our great grandparents' house because I got that from my dad, bought it from them, I got it from him, and then I was like, trying to renovate because I wanted to renovate it how they were because they were kind of my heroes, and I wanted to live, Christmas there and stuff. I wanted to recreate that, and so we were renovating that, and she was a part of it. I mean, she was helping me and telling me stuff to do to it and designing, and like she was going to be a part of it, even though there was no mention of getting married yet. Sure. And that's a pretty big deal, building your house around it. So then I remember telling my dad, I think I'm going to ask Keeler to marry me. And he goes, just like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm proud. And then that was about it. And then, so I went to my mother and I was like, I want to get her a ring. This is the kind of ring I want. And she told me what the shape she wanted, but she didn't say anything other than, and the band. So she said those two things. So I knew what I wanted, and I didn't want something that was just like gaudy or whatever. I just wanted something simple and elegant. That's what I told my mom to help me get. And I remember we went up there, talked to the people, picked it out, and then I was like, how am I going to do this? So then I was, I forget if I was going to wait till a certain day or not. But anyway, the guy when I picked up, he goes, what is your plan to take? And he says, I don't know. I think I'm going to wait like 2 weeks. He goes, I'll give it 2 days. And he said, because I don't know what it is about these things, but as soon as whoever gets it, they have to ask immediately. It's like they burn a hole in their pocket or something. I was like, okay, whatever. That's not going to be the case. So 2 days later, I called her dad up. Well, I already asked her dad. I went down there and told her dad.
How'd that go?
It was pretty good. I mean, I think they
saw it coming.
Yeah, they weren't surprised or anything, but it was just like, he talked to me and just, said a couple things. I can't even remember exactly what he said. I mean, I can tell you, but it was just like some just advice, good sound advice, and nothing like, like I'm gonna kill you if you ever do something. Right. It's just good sound advice because her parents are great, godly people. So it was again. Then I called them up, told them, I said, I'm gonna propose to Keeler tonight. Y'all need to, if you can, come to my parents' house. We'll have a little thing after that. So I took her. I used an excuse because wasn't it a Sunday night. It was a Sunday night. We all do family dinners there. So I knew that wouldn't be, something she would think odd that everybody's at the house.
Everybody's already there.
Yeah.
Right.
So on the way back, I went to my brother-in-law, Ryan. He lived over in Casey. And somehow I told him, I said, I need you to help me distract Keeler all day. So we just went over there and just hung out, did nothing all day. And she was dressed like, a college kid on Saturday, just like a bum. And I didn't tell her anything. She still gets mad at me about it. You didn't tell me I could have dressed better. So then my plan was to go back to the house and tell her I need to get something out of my the house we were renovating. Would she come in there with me? And I was going to go into one of the, I don't know if you remember where the Christmas tree already was. Always was. I was going to go in there and ask her to get it. And when she turned around, I was going to be on my knee to do that. And then when I ended up putting the flooring in there, I was going to make a circle in the floor like this and then in the hardwood and be like, this is where, we got engaged. That didn't happen because the house wasn't able to be saved. What a cool idea. But well, it was, but it wasn't a romantic thing at the time because when I went there and she turned, there was trash everywhere and just a bunch of junk. And she just turned around and it went about like you'd expect. I mean, she's, and then we were happy. Went down to my parents, and her parents were there, my family. And
man.
But it wasn't like a super romantic thing. Yeah. But it was me.
It's authentic. That's how it went good. Down. Yeah. Evan is my brother-in-law as well, which is kind of giving me a kind of an inside look at maybe more of his process that he went through. But for all our listeners and for the sake of conversation, tell us what your strategy was.
As far as
your proposal. Yeah, how did that all happen for you?
Well, so to give some, I guess some context here, like you said, you're my brother-in-law, and I have two brother-in-laws, and I'm married to the only daughter in the family. So, so that's nerve-wracking, number one. So I feel like, opposite of you, I feel like I had to kind of go hard a little bit if I was going to earn the trust of her dad and also her brothers. So
we're giving them the shakedown.
Yeah.
Right out the gate.
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, seriously, ever since we started dating, we dated for, 2011 to 2017. Yeah. So about 6 years. Man, I was trying to be impressive the entire time. I was trying to get, brownie points. I was trying to be everybody's friend, I didn't want to stir any controversy up and so anyway, but yeah, so I was always trying to be impressive, and fortunately enough, my wife liked that. So, we ended up getting married.
Off of it?
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Well, we had prayed for Evan for a long time. Somebody like Evan, because my sister went through, some things, and Evan come along, and he was like the knight in shining armor. We were all big fans.
So, y'all couldn't be too harsh.
But we couldn't put that. Yeah, we couldn't. We
play it right.
Yeah.
Well, matter of fact, it's a funny story. So when we had first started dating, I mean, we started dating in October 2011, and I think it was like soon after that. It wasn't like 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not kidding you. We got tickets to go to a Carolina football game. Me and Zack did, and we went with his wife's family, right?
Yep.
Man, I remember on that trip, I was like looking up stats of all the people, and I'm gonna talk to him. We're gonna get along. Me and her brother are really gonna hit it off at this thing. So.
I never knew I was so intimidating. I didn't know.
No, he meant Caleb.
Right. Yeah, but anyway, it's just kind of funny because it's like every time we're turned around, like, that guy he can throw the ball, can he? Anyway, no. So yeah, I was trying to impress since day one, but yeah, like I said, fortunately, my wife ate that stuff up, and so I've kind of created a standard for myself now, being married, that I can't live up to. So I try to, but
that is awesome.
Yeah, but so. Yeah, so we dated through high school, all through college, and we waited before we graduated college to get engaged and married because I wasn't going to be able to afford anything. She wasn't either, and so to do things the right way, we wanted to make sure we had
that's another
our
smart
ducks in a row. Yeah.
Make sure you've got don't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah. Exactly. So we got engaged, and we were engaged for about. Maybe a year and some change, and got married in March 2017. So it's been 8 years now. So, yep, got 2 little boys, and but yeah. So as far as my marriage proposal, how it went, a big theme throughout all of our dating and marriage, it was like puzzle pieces, and so what I did for her proposal is y'all's grandpa has, Zack and Dina's grandpa has about 19 acres or so. And I went out there, and I knew that was one of her favorite spots at the time. She loved going out to her grandpa's. And so basically there's a part of the property that's kind of, more clear and open. I had like little stations, I think it was like 5 or 6 stations, but I had at each station, it was almost like she was reliving a memory of something we did while we dated. Yeah.
He's an engineer, so this thing was thought out to the T.
Yeah. Did y'all have to assist?
Well, I was camera guy, and but the thing is, he needs
How
to
were
finish.
You the camera guy without her getting suspicious?
I was hiding on the property.
Yeah, I don't even remember that part.
And I was hiding on the property from afar. But each station, but see, each station took so long. They took so long. The actual proposal part, my camera was about to die. I'm standing out there waiting on him to hurry up and kneel down so I could get his picture. And they're reliving all these memories and stuff, which was very special, obviously.
Yeah, but what I did was basically, I made sound bites, and by the sound bites, you were kind of supposed to like be able to like sense and visualize where you were at in that point in time. You know what I mean?
The only thing he didn't have was them little stickers that you scratch and sniff. Remember when we sniffed this sticker and relived his memory with me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the only thing I didn't have.
It was awesome. I mean, the picture, you had stuff hanging from the trees.
Yeah, so the concept was basically at each station there was a puzzle piece, and at the end I got a big jigsaw puzzle made that was 6 pieces, and effectively at the end it was like, you're the missing piece of my puzzle.
Look at
and
that.
all this kind of stuff.
Look at that. That boy.
How could she say no?
So, yeah. Again, I had to.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how did she not see that coming?
Oh, she did. Well, she did. Okay, so
yeah, you'll have to give that perspective.
Yeah,
on
did y'all ever have like this? You ever seen those people who do a proposal at like a basketball game or something? And they say no.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever have that?
No,
like,
I knew with mine.
If I had any doubt there was going to be a no, I would not have done all that.
You weren't 100% sure.
That would have been really bad.
So that was the big thing for me, was like, as soon as she pulls up, she's going to know. Like, I mean, there's no way of not. When you see all that.
Because y'all have talked about, like, obviously, again, y'all might not have said, hey, we need to get married or start, but you've, like, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So she knew, like, this could happen any moment now. If he did this, she wouldn't have been, like, just. Of course, they're, like, really happy, but it wouldn't have been like.
Well, it was kind of one of those things where we both knew we wanted to get married. We knew that, that's what God had for us, but it was just a semantics thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just how are we going to afford it? I mean, we could have lived off love, but we
that don't last very long.
Yeah, exactly.
Love still gets hard at nights. Yeah, that makes it tough.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just wanted to do it the right way, and so we both were pretty sure of it. And like I say, her grandpa's property is one of the favorite places to be. And usually when we went over there, like we'll do like Thanksgiving and Easter and Christmas and stuff like that over there. Some of the best food you could ask for. But when we were over there, he has like these animals, has chickens, has goats and stuff like that.
Is that Luther?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Had guineas at the time. And we, when we got there, most of the time when we showed up, we would always like walk to the animals first and go see them before we went inside. So that was kind of the ruse. We were like outside. I was saying, hey, let's go and see the animals. And we started diverting a little bit and going towards the area I had set up, which she actually didn't see until right when she was right on top of it. So, but yeah, it went really well. It was good.
It was good. It was very good.
For sure. But
it was well thought out. It was very well thought out. But if she didn't say yes, I was going to run out there and say yes for her. Evan done put a lot of work into that thing. But
yeah, I mean, there's so many funny stories about me earning the trust of her family and stuff. So we can get into that later, but or now I don't care. But
I mean, if not now, we'll get into it later.
Sure.
Well, before we dive, I'll tell you my story. So. My situation was a little bit different. See, me and my wife, we grew up together. I have pictures standing next to her in children's church. So, we're singing our little Christmas pageant or whatever, and I'm standing right next to her. And so we grew up together, and she's 3 years older than me, and 3.5 to be exact. And so it was never really on my radar with her until obviously much, much later. But as far as the proposal goes, so she is the only person I've ever dated. The only person. I dated her, the first love letter that we shared, I was 14 years old. So
how did that go?
So it was drama practice. We were doing drama. I was a demon and she was an angel. And you was dropping her a love letter in the middle of drama practice?
Yeah,
but no, not exactly. We do the whole time it out. She go to the bathroom, and I time it where we pass each other, like coming from the bathroom, and on our way out, I'd be like a quarterback handing a football to the running back. I just have my little hand out like that, boy. And she knew it was coming, and we swapped. I literally still have, I think, a 2-inch notebook full of all of our love letters.
Oh, wow.
And it's still at the house. And we make each other. I made her name out of paper clips, and I did all this silly stuff. And so we dated for 8 years before we got married. And I remember sitting in her driveway one day, dropping her off, and saying the words, only 6 more years. And I won't tell you, at the time, it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
6 years to a teenager, it feels like it will never get there. But it did. And so she graduated, obviously, ahead of me. I went to USC. I was coming out of the back end of school. We kind of talked about how we wanted to kind of get ourselves stable. So I proposed to her on Christmas Eve. And our first date was at some family property that I have, or my family owns up in Elgin, South Carolina. And it's this big, 200-acre place. It has a big pond and has kind of an island that goes out there, like a little point that goes out over the pond. Our first date was a picnic there. That was the first one. So on Christmas Eve, we visited my great-grandparents, whose property is essentially across the street from that. So I had a plan. I went and I made, because it's a Christmas Eve family get-together, we had candles. I put like paper bags and all these little candles. Now, I couldn't take a chance of burning down the woods out there, so I had to put little batteries, and I had to go light every little candle and hope the battery doesn't run out by the time we make it back. But I made this giant trail of candles, like that went way out, and then it went out over this point and kind of made a circle. And I had a table and like a rose, and I had like some sparkly Welch's, nice. Grape juice, and it was freezing cold. It was Christmas Eve, so she didn't know anything was happening, and we passed my great-grandparents' driveway, and she's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I need to go see something real quick. I mean, I didn't have no excuse. Like, what am I supposed to say? And as soon as we did that, she knew something was happening. She immediately started shaking. Like, her hands started shaking. Like, everything started shaking.
Did you start shaking too?
Oh, dude. I was on pins and needles. And we go out there, and I park way up on this hill, and it overlooks, and it's this giant hill. You can see, it's just this giant trail of candles. And as soon as she gets out, she's shaking, and she says she's shivering because it's cold, but she started shaking. She knew something was about to happen. So I walked her out there. I sat down, and I don't know, I had this little speech in my mind, and I said something to her. There was nobody taking pictures, and that's the one thing I almost wish that somebody would have been hiding behind like a pine tree out there to take a picture of the moment, because it was beautiful. But I knelt down and I gave her the ring. She said yes. We immediately rushed up there to my family. My family knew, so whenever we walked in the door, everybody was ready with their cameras. And then, of course, that very night, we went, after that family get together, we went to her family get together for Christmas Eve. And so we went from one to the other, and all the family knew as well. And when I went and talked to her family about it and asked basically for her hand in marriage, again, I grew up, her parents were my Sunday school teachers. So like I was very, very, very close to them. But I called them one day and I said, can I take you guys out to San Jose, a little Mexican restaurant? Mm-hmm. And I'd like to just treat y'all lunch. Well, that gave it away right there. They knew. And I think I talked about everything, but asking them, like I was so nervous, I didn't know what to say. And so I talked about, school's going good. How's the plumbing business? How's things going? And then I got the check. I paid for it, signed my little signature on the receipt, gave it back to him.
By the way.
Yeah.
Before this gets awkward.
Yeah. By the way, I really brought you here to ask if, I can marry your daughter. And they fell out laughing. They said, we were wondering how long it was going to take. And it was wonderful, but there's no perfect, on paper, everything, or, on these fairy tales, we know what the perfect ideal in our mind, proposal or situation or marriage is. But, it's perfect whenever God's in it, and whenever we're true to ourselves and, prioritize each other. And so that proposal, it's like, John, you were saying, that your proposal was perfect for you guys, and, for what, for that moment. And
all the little imperfections are,
that makes it really.
because it makes it real.
Well, that's what marriage is about. I guess you know, the movies do us a disservice when it comes to marriages.
Definitely.
So that, you know, it's definitely work. It definitely has its flaws and imperfections, but you know, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. But like you said, and everybody's different because you grew up and you knew Kristen from, you know, basically birth.
Sure.
Or at least her parents, and then so y'all knew each other your entire life. And I don't know, y'all knew.
Well, so I didn't kind of go into all that. Basically, we met. I met her in sixth grade. It's kind of crazy.
Were y'all in the same grade?
Yep.
Okay. So you are like same age then.
Yeah, we're 6 days apart. She was born on the 8th of September. I'm 14.
Makes it tough
September
on
14.
the birthdays. Well, we're 11 years apart, and if I'd met her in the 6th grade, or a day before I met her, I would have had zero. It was borderline any interest at all. So, because I was 29.
Yeah,
and you know, she was 18.
But we had that going for us though. We were able to kind of grow up in school together, and the whole like impress her thing that really started from early on because it was like maybe freshman or sophomore year we had classes together, and I would tell her a pickup line every single day. Ninth grade, I practically begged her for her number every day. She's like, I don't have texting. I was like, okay, fine. And then 10th grade is when I started the pickup lines. I'm like, man, ain't nothing working. So that's when senior year I had to get creative. And so anyway, but that's when we started finally dating.
I like the what do you call it? The when you don't give up.
Persistence. Endurance.
Yes.
Oh man!
Yeah, you running that.
Look, man, we
know, when you want something.
Hey, we were biggest fans of Evan. The persistence. We were glad that he stayed the course. Sometimes we were worried about my sister there for a little bit. It all worked out. But I mean, you know, honestly, you know, with marriages and stuff, and you know, obviously, you know, everybody's experience, even around this table, is a little bit different. Like, you know, I grew up, and you know, essentially, my wife's been the only woman that I've ever really had any sort of relationship with at all, from dating to, and in fact, you know,
same.
And so like, you know, but then you know, the different points at which, you know, your paths crossed and stuff, like they're all very different experiences. However, they're all very similar in ways. I mean, we're all married. We all have 2 kids apiece. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, soon to be 5-year-old. And Evan?
Yep, soon to be 5 and 2.5. Yep.
Yeah.
I know they're 5 and 6, but you also have a boy and girl. You have 2 boys and I have 2 girls.
Right.
Yeah.
So
wow. Yeah. Kind of a good blend. Yeah. Different experiences. I did want a girl, you know, selfishly, but you know, the boys, the girls and boys are totally different. And it's been a pretty wild experience with that. It's been great.
Yeah, I selfishly wanted a girl too. You know, there's, you know, all the things that, you know, you walk your daughter down the aisle, you know, spoil them and all this stuff. And whenever Silas grows up and listens to this podcast, he's probably gonna be mad at me. But we had Roman, which I was like, man, Roman's gonna carry our name. Yeah, and then Silas, like, you know, me and Dina were like, man, we hope it's a girl. And so then we have a video. It's so bad. Like, we have a video. We're sitting in Dina's van and we're like, it's we're like, oh boy. But yeah, and I was more heartbroken than she was. But no, I love both my boys. And I was talking to somebody about it, and they were like, man, you don't realize how fortunate you are. And I said, why is that? And they said, you have the opportunity to raise 2 godly men in this world, in a world where, you know, masculinity is few and far between, where a godly man is you know, hard to find. So it kind of brought that back into perspective a little bit. So I cherish those kids so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Them.
Definitely. I mean, we have nephews, and that's about the closest I ever get to raising a boy or helping with the diaper changing or when they're really small. And they are totally different. A girl is like, that is the easiest thing ever. And then boys, they had all kind of complications. And being a man, I'm not much of a nurturer. I'm more of a provider. It's very awkward being and because my father, when we came up, I have 5 sisters, just 6 of us. He never changed one diaper.
Man.
Not one. And I cannot remember him ever doing anything as like a nurturing person. That does not fly in my house. My wife makes me do, my portion of it, or an equal portion I get. And I wouldn't say equal. She definitely does way more than I do, but at least contribute a fair amount.
Sure.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I guess there's nothing wrong with my way my parents did it, if that's how you work it out. But it's, for me, that is definitely, it was a learning experience. And the scaredest I've ever been in my life is whenever they, with our first girl, they took us to the door of the hospital when they're kicking us out, and be like, all right. And I was like,
what now?
Yeah.
Are y'all coming with us?
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I was terrified.
Yeah.
But again, that's all.
Dude, when it comes to that, like, of course, you have the motherly instinct comes out in the women, but for men, it's like a whole new world. At least for me, it was.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't know either. No. So I tell people there's no book, there's nothing you can read, no video you can watch that'll prepare you for having a kid other than just having one and just fighting through it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my oldest son, he had to stay in the NICU for 7 days after he was born. They had to use the vacuum on his head to get him out.
Yeah.
And so he had like a little soft spot, a little hematoma back there. But he had to stay in the NICU for a week, and we were already on edge about that, because we're like, hey, we don't want to make it worse, But then when we brought him home, we were so just joyful and everything, but then we got home, we're like, okay, we've been having assistance for 7 days now.
Yeah.
And literally, like, I took a week off of work, and and Dina was off, of course, on leave. And so the most we had to do was just show up to the NICU, and we're like, hey buddy, love you. And then like we left, and then the nurses took care of him. Right. So then we bring him home, and it's just a whole new world. He was sleeping, and my wife jokes because she's like, if the baby's sleeping, don't wake him up. But she woke him up, and she's like, let's wake him up and give him a bath. And, so we get the sink already, in the bathroom. And so we fill it up with water. And we set him in the sink. He just starts screaming bloody murder, And I'm just like, are you burning him? Is it too cold? Is it too hot? And all this stuff. And
they won't tell you.
Exactly. Exactly. The babies won't tell you. So anyway, that's just a little story. But yeah, nothing can prepare you for having a child other than just doing it.
No, that's right. And I wanted, unfortunately, at that point, whenever Mason, our oldest, was born, I wanted him to hurry up and grow up where I could start talking to him, playing with him. I wanted him to sit up. I wanted him to talk to me, like tell me what's going on. And I did. I feel like with him, in my mind, like every time he would cry and I would hold him, I'd be like, man, I just can't wait till I can like throw a football with you. And I wished him to grow up, and I didn't really fully take in that journey. Mm-hmm. It goes so fast, you feel like, your sleepless nights will always, be sleepless nights, and then you blink, and then it's like,
well, they go through those stages. So you get them, and all they do is sit, sleep, eat, and poop. That's all they do.
Right.
And it's like they're no fun. They're just, you go out to eat or somewhere, and they're just sitting in their car seat the whole time. So they're no fun. But they're
praying that they don't start crying in the restaurant. Yeah.
But then you realize especially if you have 2, the first one gets up, and you realize that that's the easy stage. Man, it's so easy because they don't move. They just sit there. Now, they'll cry occasionally, or if you have a kid that's lactose intolerant like ours, they scream a lot. But as far as managing the baby, they just sit there.
Yeah.
And then you realize, then they start crawling, and then it's game over.
Yeah.
You put them, like if you're going out to eat, they're sitting in this chair. Next thing you know, they're over there, over here, playing with the fork. Getting your food, crawling over you, doing this, and it's like, just sit still.
Yeah.
And so
it changes everything.
Yeah.
Well, you ever seen the video of how there's a guy that talks about how the kids eat? Like, he's like picking snacks off the table. He's like,
oh yeah. And then
moving
they start
around.
talking.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like, they won't stop talking.
Yeah.
And then they start, then they start learning stuff. So now they think they know stuff.
Yeah. I think I've learned to enjoy the journey.
Yes.
Enjoy the journey. And from our marriage to raising our kids, like, when the tough seasons come, they're just little seasons. I mean, they're not going to last. So there's even beauty in those moments. If you can learn to enjoy every little moment, take advantage of that time, because I mean, really, just sitting here talking about even my relationship with my wife, looking back on when we first started dating, that doesn't seem like that longer. Yeah. It seems like it's just you blink and it's just like a short burst of life. And it feels like it'll last forever, but it really doesn't. So really, really take in every moment and take advantage of that.
Well, talking about raising godly men, I guess this is a question for both of y'all. Like how, of course, like you mentioned, babies, they sleep and they eat and they poop, and it's like that's just about it. And like, and you're waiting for them to talk to you, communicate with you. So I guess my question is what, and it may just be simple as early as possible, but I want to get your feedback as to when y'all first started like talking to your kids about God, or introducing God to your kids, or even just, I don't know.
Well, that goes back. Like I'm hoping my kids had the same take on it that I do, and I know you do, Zach, because we grew up in a lot same similarities here. So I don't ever remember not like knowing. My first memories are of Jesus, God, church, everything involving basically around this church here. So, like we were talking the other night about, do you remember your first, or where you got saved? Mm-hmm. I know, no clue. It's almost like being a member of this church. I used to think I was born a member because I was here, and I'd never, how would you say it? Like always from the time I, could recollect, I remember just asking Jesus in my heart, beating in my heart, because I didn't know when it took place. Yeah. And so I didn't want to be unsure, because everybody told me, you die, you go to hell if you're not saved. So I wanted to make sure I was, check that off, and I wasn't, going to be left out. And so I don't remember being like having that moment, going to the altar or being saved and whatever. So I hope my kids have that same thing. Like they were brought up to it. They don't ever not remember. Like they wake up on Sunday morning or Saturday mornings. We had back then, I think it was WMHK and whatever that show was. That it was like a radio story hour or something.
Yeah, it was Adventures in Odyssey.
Yes, and then Ranger Bill and all that stuff. So that's what I remember waking up to and hearing all the time. And then just Christian radio nonstop or songs. So that's what I want them to do. I don't want them to know another world.
Right.
And so hopefully when they, go out into the, school, which they go to a Christian school too. So not even that. But when they go out into the world, it's strange to them. Yeah. Like, these people are not like me or don't do what I do. So that's kind of what my hope for them is.
Yeah. So with ours, of course, another thing that brings us to the table is obviously we've all experienced loss of a child and miscarriages. Whenever we found out that we were pregnant with Mason, I immediately, like when she had her little birth or pregnancy test, we immediately stopped, and we were in the kitchen of our first home, and I held her hand and held that little pregnancy test, and I prayed over her in that baby, ultimately Mason, right then.
Yeah.
And was not out of fear, but out of thanksgiving, because we'll get into this in later episodes, but we were told we couldn't have children on our own after many complications. But we also had a peace that came out of that moment that everything was going to be all right. So I guess what I'm trying to say, kind of like John, is, from the very beginning, God was kind of in the center of it. And every night, even now, and we started this tradition, man, I mean, when they were little, but, every night we pray and we read our Bible and we pray, and we all take turns and they pray. And sometimes their prayers are,
about everything.
Yeah. And Lord, thank you for, my, my stuffed animal, and, they go, but I tell them, pray from your heart. whatever's on your heart. And sometimes it's a stall tactic. We sit there for 5 minutes listening to, all of naming the alphabet of things that they are thankful for. But all that being said, there are moments where with Mason, he's getting older now. He's 8 years old, where he's experiencing God for himself. We've always surrounded him with God, but I'm executive pastor at the church here, and we go to conferences. Our children are in a lot of church services and a lot of things, and they do great and they take part in it. But we went most recently to a pastor's conference, and there was a prayer, and they were praying over all of us. And Mason, as he was going through, being prayed over, he told us when he got done, he's like, "Daddy, I almost started crying." He said, I started crying because I just felt so happy. And I told him, "Buddy, that was the Holy Spirit you felt. You felt the peace of God inside of you." And it's like things are making sense to him more. But I think it's a testament to us having that culture of Jesus, and Jesus in the center of our marriage that ultimately trickled down to Jesus in the center of our raising our children, Jesus in the center of our schedule with how we do things. So all those things collectively, I think, have made a big difference.
Yeah, and you were talking about the your children not knowing any different, and how that's what you desire, and that's what I desire as well, because, Jesus talks about having the innocence of a child, right? And seeing the times where your child is just open and just praying on their own, or just saying things without any regard, without any, hesitation. And right. I know you have the story, I don't want to speak for you, but you have the story of Mason praying the prayer for, I think it was a stomach or something.
Yeah.
But similar situation with me when I was taking my kids to school one day, and I was about to drop them off, and we always, every time we drop them off, we always say a prayer before we go to school. Most of the time it's the same thing. It's like, keep them safe, allow them to respect their teachers and be nice to their friends. And but this time was different, because Roman said, "Okay, Daddy, I want to pray." I said, "All right, go ahead, buddy." And he said, "Dear Jesus, I thank you for mommy and daddy, because there are some kids in this world that don't have mommies and daddies." And he said, "I'm just super thankful to have mommy and daddy." And so, like, I'm sitting there, somebody's cutting an onion in my truck on the way to daycare,
Trying to get you.
Yeah. And so, it's stuff like that. Like, they unfiltered, raw, but that's what you love about them. And when it comes to that, so.
Yep.
For sure.
Definitely. You get lots of little moments with they're authentic too.
Yeah.
Because they spit whatever comes right to their mind.
Yeah.
And we had, PJ came to us the other day. It was probably about a month or two ago, maybe a little longer. But actually, her teacher did. When Keeler picked him up or something, she said, "Hey, Ro came to me at lunch or PE or recess, and said she wanted her to pray with her because she wanted to ask Jesus in her heart." And
wow.
Yeah, so we were like, we're very thankful that school was there to, they promote that one, they teach that, and when that comes up, they're more than, they're all on it, like able to lead them, walk them through it, teach them, and not just say it, but explain it, tell them what it means and everything. So she's getting to the point where she understands, and that's another thing. Like, when I say we never knew any different, and we didn't know. We just assumed we were always saved. Not assumed, but when we come up, we didn't know that we weren't saved, because we were always doing the same thing, and then we were saying the ask Jesus in our heart, because that's what we did. But then once you reach a certain level of maturity, you start kind of comprehend. Like you say, when Mason gets to that, he's got his own understanding.
Right.
So then once he gets to that point, he's like, it clicks for him. He's like, I am being a Christian. I am doing, God's work, or living a right life. This is what it is. Now, you never stop learning, never stop growing, but that's kind of the ultimate goal. That's what you want for your kid. You don't want them to have to go through hard times and be brought back to the cross. That's a painful journey. You want them to,
dig roots now.
And
for sure. Well, I do know that, that's kind of the idea about these nights around this table, is to to be encouraged by one another. I know your stories and your testimonies and the things that you've shared, even the funny, little bits of your life has already encouraged me tonight. And I hope that message is conveyed as we continue on with these conversations. Like, that, we are iron sharpening iron here, and that it's very important to come to a table and to have these conversations with each other. For sure.
Yeah. It's few and far between where you find godly men talking to each other. I mean, it doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't have to be all this stuff, but, the men in the church and Christian men, we need men to do this. We need Christian men to talk about some of these things. And, I'm super thankful to have you guys to do it with. Yeah. And I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And good. One of my personality traits is I question everything. Like if you tell me something, so if a pastor is preaching or an evangelist, anyone on these television, whatever, they say anything, my immediate reaction is, and I don't know if it's because of how the news media works nowadays or whatever, that everybody just spits their image or what their spin on it, how they like it to be perceived because they're working an angle. I don't know if it's that or if it's just my natural born characteristic, but somebody says something, I'll hear it, listen to it, but then I go verify. I want to go make sure that's what it says, and that lines up with the Bible to my understanding of it. And if it's not, there's an issue. And there's a few people that when they say something, like Pastor Zack and Pastor Gene, our pastors, and a couple other ones I can name, when they say, if they were to say a rooster lays eggs, you can go get a basket. Because, they're going to be spot on. But at the same time, if anybody says anything, even in teaching Sunday school, like Uncle Lane had the Giants, that was great. Oh, yeah. But that inspired you to go, I want to really look into this and see about that. Right. So then you go verify that and dig into it. So that's what I like to do. And so when we sit around this table and we question things that we've been taught or whatever, we grow from that. Not that you're saying they're wrong or they're you're right, that they don't know what they're talking about or whatever, but you're looking to learn and to be informed and to. So when you go repeat what their teachings are, you're not just repeating the teachings. You understand every element of it.
Yeah, because I guess to preface that, I'm definitely not a scholar when it comes to
right.
I'm not a theologian, and so. Of course, we have our opinions, but I don't want to claim anything that I'm saying is like
exactly because you're not an ultimate authority on it, but it's just to your best of your understanding, and you're human.
Yeah.
So, and if you can't, no one can be argue with that because, for instance, I just talked with Uncle Jimmy today. There's 10,000 denominations in the church. 10,000. And some of them are, they're way out there in left field. They're not biblical. But, there are a fair amount that are. And you can't tell me that, the Baptist or the Methodist aren't going to be in heaven.
Sure.
So if you have 10,000 different denominations and, let's just say 30.
Right.
And all 30 of those are going to have people present in heaven. Somebody's wrong about something. And nobody's the ultimate authority. The Bible is super clear on some things, and some things are not, they're up for interpretation.
Sure.
And that's where you get all this from, but that's where I like to question stuff. So when they say that, why does it say that? Does it really say that? And what does that mean? Does that, why does this say that? And why do they get that? Explain to me this. And I'm not saying anybody's right. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I just want to know. Yeah. And I'm looking for answers.
It's very important that you do that.
Because we all have the central foundation, right? Like
exactly. And if you
Jesus
don't
died on the cross for our sins, he is God come into flesh.
100%.
3 in 1,
100%. And that's what you have to, be circled around and everything.
Yeah.
Obviously that's the light. So you can't stray from it, but it's the, I love to break stuff down and learn stuff like that. I like to get into the details of it, and it's fun for me. It's interesting for me, and also after a certain point in reading the Bible, growing, that's where you have to go to grow and to learn. You can't. There's only so many things that you can recite and quote scripture before you're a doctrine in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why it's so important to have these conversations with each other among obviously independent discipleship and growth personally, but in a culture today that coming to a table like this and talking about things is almost taboo. Yeah. People don't do that, especially in the politic side. Everybody wants their own little view heard in social media and stuff. And we need this. We need tables like this. We need spaces where we can come together, different experiences, different ideas, different perspectives, and all come together. We come together even with different experiences with common themes that bring us, in unity to this table to allow us to have these conversations. And so, yeah, man, out of this, this series of conversations we'll have together, I'm looking forward to being encouraged and growing over this very important space that we have here together.
For sure. Mm-hmm. That's the goal. Yeah. Of this podcast is not necessarily to teach you things or to try to preach to you or teach to you, but it says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb, excuse me, and the blood of the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Right.
And so I think the word of our testimony is going to be at this table.
That's right.
Every week or however often we do it. But for our listeners, that's going to be the key, is just the word of our testimony. Sure. The goal. So.
Yeah, man.
But so I guess that about wraps it up for this one. We thank y'all for all of our listeners for tuning in this time. And we hope that you've had a great night around the table. Hope that you stay strong, stay sharp, and we'll see you next time.